Hey there. So, for the tens, if not hundreds, of Studio HFL fans, I'd like to say hello, welcome back. I would like to let you know that I've got some more interviews finally coming out. In 2017, I started these interviews. First 50 or so were audio only, and then, of course, thanks to COVID and Zoom, I was able to get video for most of the rest of these interviews. And then life went back to somewhat normal, and I stopped editing, and it's been bugging me for some time. So finally, the pendulum has swung the other direction, and here I am finally editing and getting these interviews out. Now, early on, I had sponsors, and I was ever so grateful to have those sponsors. I wouldn't have been able to have quite the success for the podcast that I did without them. Of course, that includes, in no particular order, Eastman Music Company and SE Shires, Chop Saver, thank you, Dan Gosling, Austin Custom Brass, Hammond Design, Pickett, Blackburn, and Messina Covers. And I think I'm leaving somebody else out of there. I think that's it. Anyways, and also to some Patreon subscribers. Couldn't have done it without you guys either, so thank you ever so much. Oh, yeah. If during the interview you are so moved to like and subscribe, then please do. Don't worry, this is my only ask. You won't see or hear about that again. So, now without further ado, on with the interview.
Well, Chris, welcome to my podcast.
Oh, thanks, Larry. It's a pleasure.
Glad to have you here. We kind of talked about this, I don't know, over the last couple of years, and at the time I was only doing trumpet players, and I was thinking I'm only going to interview a trombone player if it's like court ordered, you know.
Well, I'm glad to see that the Indiana State Supreme Court has finally made their decision.
Yeah, it went all the way to the Supreme Court. Of course it did. So, no, I tell you what, I've had a blast. Of course, great musicians are great musicians. Doesn't matter what you play. And, it's nice to have so many great musicians, like right in my own backyard. Muncie, Anderson, Indy, Fort Wayne, it's very cool. So, yeah, man, I'm glad you're here.
I will never forget this. One thing with the pandemic and my job at Ball State is that we have the unique distinction of being Joe Alessi's first canceled gig because of the pandemic. He was supposed to come and do Trombone Day. He was going to play 2 concertos. It was awesome. And that got canceled, and then everything else fell apart. So I remember sitting in the parking lot of the Meijer down here in the McCordsville Meijer, down where I live now, and talking with Joe about how he was going to teach his Juilliard students. And he said that, and I was like, oh, that sounds like a good idea. Well, if it's good enough for Juilliard, it'll work at Ball State. So we're in this lovely northeast corner of Indianapolis. We moved in February.
Yeah.
And it's awesome.
Yeah. We good move. Glad to be settled in a new house.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, we made it just under the wire. A month before the shutdown, we settled in the new house. And yeah, it's great. I've been doing a lot of painting.
Not Bob Ross kind of painting, right? We're talking
no happy little clouds.
Broad strokes.
Yeah, trim, lots of swear words, that kind of thing.
Wow. So, and you got kids, right?
Yeah. Yep. We have 2 boys. Yes and no. So, we moved to Lawrence specifically so that the boys could go to the Spanish immersion school, Forest Glen Elementary.
Yeah.
And then along with that, we found this really awesome Spanish immersion preschool and after-school care. So last school year, the boys, our preschooler was going to this place called Spanish Advantage Club, and then our 7-year-old, he would go there after school. They pick him up and he'd go there after school. So they have kind of pivoted, and they're open, and they're able to do like no more than 10 kids in a room and keep them in their pods. So it's really very safely done. And they've pivoted to being like kind of a hub for the virtual program in Lawrence. So the preschooler doesn't matter because he was just going to go.
Right.
But our 2nd grader now, we opted him into the virtual school at Forest Glen, which is about 50% of that school by now. Half opted in. And we have to pay to send him to the Spanish Advantage Club place, but he can do his e-learning there with them, with teachers who also speak Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really, really good. We feel really lucky about that. I mean, I
So
speak Spanish, so I could do it with him, but basically teaching him full time and then doing all my studio stuff is like, that'd be a lot.
So why Spanish? What is there? Is your wife Spanish?
No, like I said, I speak Spanish, and I have been really fortunate to travel in Latin America and make some friends in that part of the world. And it's mostly that that's a program that's available, and we've done some research and kind of like the benefits of the language immersion in becoming bilingual. And then in addition to that, it's the second most commonly spoken language in the U.S. And in my personal experience, having a little bit of Spanish has been useful to me, and I think that it'll be useful for the boys going forward too.
You mentioned traveling. It seems like everybody else across the world speaks their native language and English, and then two or three more, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why isn't it? I've thought this for a long time. Why isn't that the case here? That it's required that a second or third language is learned.
It's weird. I wonder if I think a part of it is just the simple geography of it, in that we've got, the U.S. is so huge, and in Canada, with the exception of Quebec, they speak English, that we don't have a need for it. But if you live in Denmark, you have to know how to speak German and English and French and other things.
Right.
But yeah, and my experience in Latin America too is that the level of English speaking isn't as prominent as it is when I've traveled in Europe a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying that's for better or worse. It's just that's what my experience has been.
Yeah. So, well, this is good stuff. Who knew we were going to talk about Spanish immersion in a musician's podcast, right?
Here we are.
Here we are. So, well, you've given me a little insight of what you've been doing this summer with painting, working on a new house. But what about the playing side of things? What have you been doing?
Yeah, well, I've been trying to keep my fundamentals intact. For up through the first week of July, I was doing a weekly fundamentals session with my student from Ball State. And then we had a number of camping trips. So I actually, just to be totally honest, I took 3.5 weeks off and didn't play. And that was great. I was able to do that because there's nothing coming up. There's no gigs, no work. And I usually take a week off, sometimes 2 in the summer. And I decided to extend that because we were, like I said, traveling and camping in northern Michigan. So I did that. And then this past week and a half, I've been back on the horn, and it's been great. I'm getting ready for a shared recital that I'm playing with some colleagues at Ball State the very, very end of August. That'll be pretty much just live streamed. So yeah, working on that repertoire, and I'm really excited about another little project too. I was talking about my friends from Central America. A good buddy of mine, Avenicio Nunez. He's one of the top salsa trombone players in Panama City. He plays in the band that backs up Ruben Blades, legendary salsero. And Venny has this project called Cuarenteneando Trombones. So quarantining trombone players. And he gets people to write these amazing arrangements for like 4 to 6 to 8 trombones of like kind of salsa classics. And then we all record at home, and then he's got singers and percussionists that record at home and mixes it all together. So I'm tomorrow doing a recording for him on that, which will be really cool. Yeah. And then he wanted to do one with all Americans. So Venny's playing and me, and then my buddy Nick Finzer, who's a really great jazz player, teaches at North Texas. And then a guy that Evan Conroy. I think you know Evan.
Oh, yeah. Oh, what a great bass trombone player.
Fantastic bass trombone player in the Louisiana Philharmonic. He's recording on that too. So I've done that, and I made a couple of those like multi-pane videos, but mostly just things that I wrote a chart and wanted to see what it sounded like, that kind of thing. But yeah, the summer for me has been a big focus on fundamentals and just keeping in kind of basic shape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How many years? You're starting what year at Ball State? Third or fourth?
This will be my my fourth year. Yeah,
Yeah.
start of my fourth year. Yeah.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Yeah, it seems to be a great fit for you up there, and for Ball State.
Yeah, I've been really happy teaching there. For me, as a trombone player looking for a good college job, there are some things you want, and Ball State has those things, like a really great band and orchestra, a really strong jazz program, which is essential, and good, great brass colleagues to work with, and those boxes are all checked up Ball State, so that makes me a happy camper. I like that.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people are going to be familiar with Ball State, and of course John Seidel, who you replaced, and rest his soul, such a great guy. But Stephen Campbell, Paul, oh my gosh, Paul Berger,
Gene,
right?
yeah,
and Matt Lyon's still there, right?
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, holy cow, that's a great, nice youthful collection there at Ball State, and I think that was well needed, to have that the younger generation come in there.
Yeah. It's an easy group of people in that regard to work with. And then again, like I said, I always underscore this, the jazz faculty at Ball State too, in particular Mark Biselli and Freddie Mendoza. For me, on the brass side of things, like those two guys are just great teachers, great players, great colleagues. So yeah.
Well, Mark's done a heck of a job putting the faculty together over the last few years, bringing in ringer after ringer for that. So yeah. So yeah, you've been busy, and I see you wearing your International Trombone Festival. That's you hosted that in 2019, right?
I did, yeah. It was the 48th International Trombone Festival, and I hosted it.
And let's hope it's not the last.
Well, it shouldn't be. It was supposed to be in Japan this summer, and that got canceled, obviously. And I actually, after hosting, I was added onto the staff, so I'm now the assistant manager of the festival.
Oh.
And
that's what happens when you do a good job, right?
Yeah, I guess so. So we're currently in the midst of the planning for the 2021 festival, which is going to be at Columbus State University in Georgia.
Oh,
so
very cool.
Yeah, that'll be. We're looking forward to that. The lineup for that is incredible already, and yeah.
Well, let's hope that everything's whatever the new normal is. Let's hope it's there, so we can all make it to things like that.
Yeah, I know, man. Well, that was one of the reasons that Columbus State was chosen, is that it has the ability to, if needed, kind of pivot to a socially distanced event, because there's a hall that seats 2,000. ITF is good, but we're never going to get we don't get 2,000 people there. And it also has really good live streaming capability. So we could do a cutback if we need to. We can do a cutback artist list and have them be there and live stream and things like that. So we have options to not have to cancel it next summer, even if the pandemic is still raging at a dangerous level.
Right. So I'm curious. I mean, I've put together small one-day events, but what's it like putting on a week-long, or I don't know how many days the festival is for trombones?
Yeah. It's 4 days. It's always a Wednesday through a Saturday, and it was all consuming. It was legitimately all consuming. If it was a moment where I wasn't working on something for teaching at Ball State, I was working on ITF stuff.
Right.
And the run up to it was really intense. There's things you have to do that you never anticipate having to do. Like, for example, I had to figure out how to acquire a portative organ, and then how to transfer it over. Now there's this guy, and I feel bad, I forgot his name, but he lives in Yorktown, just outside of Muncie, Indiana. And this guy has a pristine portative organ. It's like about the size of my desk. It's a lovely little Baroque organ. And so, but the thing with this guy is, like, you got to be ready for some like really like groaners of puns. And he's a guy from a different generation, so you have to be like willing to tolerate some things that like you couldn't say on NBC anymore. so like, I'll never forget driving my minivan over to this guy's house with a former student of mine, picking this thing up, and he wheels it out, and we have to get over. So that kind of thing. 2 months before the festival, facilities at Ball State informed us that they were going to close the music building to repair the air conditioning. So fortunately, that was one of the buildings where it's all just the classrooms, but that's where we were going to do lectures and rehearsals and things. So I had to scramble to find all new venues for that. So there was all these little things that you don't think about. And then during the festival itself, it was just like, there's that meme of like the dog sitting in hell with fire all around him, and he's saying, "This is fine. Everything's fine. Everything's just, this is great." And that's kind of how it felt. Quite literally, actually, on Friday night is traditionally kind of the jazz night for the headline concert at ITF. And so we finished that. I got to play in the ensemble for that. It was awesome. Great show. And then me and my friend Justin Cook, who works on the staff, it was about 10:30 at night, and as you can imagine, like trombone players, that last concert's done. Like before the players are off the stage, half the crowd's already at the bar. Yeah. So like we had a mission. Me and Jay, we were on a mission to get over to the Guardian Brewing Company. So we walk out after everything's all tied up, and across the street from Search Performance Hall is Emmons Auditorium, as you know, and in the lobby, that's where we had the expo hall. So on the first floor and the second floor lobby, we had the expo hall. So, literally hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of instruments and music and mutes and everything. And we see like 5 fire trucks pull up in front of Evans. And there's like the distinct smell of smoke and electricity in the air. We go running across, and we've after like a couple of seriously, underwear changing level moments of fear, we discovered that it wasn't in the expo hall, but there's a classroom building that's just attached onto the side of Emmons. There had been an electrical fire in there. One of the pop machines like blew a circuit and caught on fire, and the whole thing filled with smoke. And so like nothing really was damaged except the pop machine, but like the thought of the expo hall burning down was terrifying.
Well, that could have been the grand finale, right? I mean, that's, and this is the last time you ever get to host the ITF.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna, it's go big or go home,
Right. So
hashtag I burn Shires.
Right. Yeah, we'll get to that, by the way, because we're both very nicely associated with Shires. Planning a one-day event, it usually takes me about a year to work on stuff, and I've heard that it takes about 2 years to prepare for one of these week-long festivals. Is that kind of what you had?
Well, I had 18 months.
Okay.
I had in my previous job, I taught for 4 years at Colorado State University in Fort Collins, and I had applied to host at CSU, and something happened, and quite literally my application got lost. I got this job, and I immediately looked around and saw our beautiful facilities, and I got in touch with a member of the ITF board and said, "Hey, I'd love to apply to host." And they were like, "Great, we need applications." And so that got turned around, and I got it. So yeah, I had 18 months, a year and a half, basically. And yeah, it was crazy. The good thing is that, and I don't know this for sure, Larry, but I think the one day things you do are like you're kind of running the whole show.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with ITF, there's a staff, and that helps a lot. So there's other people involved. I did not have to do everything by any means. Jay Cook, who I mentioned already, he's the manager of the festival, and Karen Marston, she's the festival director. These are two people who, like, it was only their second festival doing it when it was in Muncie, but they do a great job and helped me along. And also Jonathan Allen, who teaches trombone at University of Iowa. He was on the staff then too and helping out. So that made a big difference. That makes a big difference.
Did you enlist your students to help all this?
Yes, I did. I had at the time, and even still kind of now, a relatively young studio. I only have one senior, for example, this year. So I had a pretty young studio, but what I was able to rely on them for was the ITF basically cannot function without its student workers. Now these kids get free room and board and free entrance to the festival, and they have to work basically an 8-hour shift every day. There's usually about 30 to 40 of them. So the majority of my studio were student workers, and then that was nice because they know the facilities,
Right.
so we could assign them jobs where like they really need to know stuff. I had one student who was a student worker just for Ball State. He worked backstage. He knew how to do all the lights and everything like that. So that was cool, and I like that too because then I know that my crew gets to like hang out backstage with Jorgen Van Rijn and George Curran and like all the heavies who were playing solo recitals.
Right.
So
Right. Yeah. Speaking of some heavies, I'm starting to learn some big names like Jim Nova. And holy cow, some of the arrangements that guy's done.
yeah,
I've enjoyed those on YouTube, but it's like, was it Star Wars? It's like, that's brutal.
yeah. That Jim. I'm glad you mentioned Jim. He and I have become buddies a little bit. I had him out at Colorado State as a guest artist. He'll be at Ball State in theory in March as a guest artist in 21. But he was the kind of the leader of the closing concert of the ITF, which was he called it a fall from light to dark, and it was his Star Wars charts, and it takes music from all of the first 6 Star Wars movies and follows Anakin Skywalker, like from when he was a little kid to turning into Darth Vader eventually. Spoiler alert, sorry, belated.
Wait,
you can edit that.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Anakin, yeah, that's what happens.
Yeah.
And so for this concert, Jim played, obviously. He needed 11 players. It was him and Nate Gantz, who's principal trombone in Atlanta. They were basically like the alto trombone destroyers over there. And then in the band, I will never forget these players. So bear with me, I have to list them. Was Jorgen Van Rijn, principal of the Concertgebouw, Carol Jarvis, BBC Philharmonic, London Symphony, top freelancer, Peter Steiner, international soloist, played with Vienna Philharmonic, Pedro Carrero, solo trombone in the Simon Bolivar Orchestra in Venezuela, John Romero in the Met Opera Orchestra, Brian Santero in the New York City Ballet Orchestra, Nick Schwartz, bass trombone in the Met, Jeff D, bass trombone Pittsburgh, George Curran, bass trombone in New York Phil. You talk about a murderer's row.
Right.
And so we had this band together. It's giving me chills just thinking about it. We had this band together, and Jim was talking about finding a conductor, and he had some ideas. And then one day he texts me, and he's like, Chris, I made a decision. You're going to conduct. He's like, I've seen you conduct. You know my charts, and you're a Star Wars nerd like me, so you're going to conduct. And I was like, oh well, all right, Jim. I don't know. I'm just kind of an arm flapper. He's like. And he gave me this wonderful backhanded compliment. And he said, well, Chris, it's not so much about technique. It's more about passion. Well, Jim, I got passion to spare, so sign me up.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, but, man, I will never forget that. Holy cow. Like, being in front of those players, like, it was just a dream come true conducting that. And no attitude, no ego. Everybody just checked it at the door and just had a great time. With all these people from all across the world. It was cool. My right ear is still bleeding from Nick Schwartz playing contrabass trombone at me. It's like,
I've talked about this before, but trumpet ensemble, has kind of become a necessity at a university. And I have one down at UIndy, but I can only honestly take so much of it. But you put me in front of a trombone ensemble or low brass ensemble, it's like sonically, it's just like this warm, velvety blanket, right? That I'm starting to get a little tingly thinking about it.
Oh, I thought this was a family show.
Yeah, there's something about it though. I mean, it's just gorgeous, and that you guys can add those alto and soprano trumpets, the slide trumpets, basically.
Yeah.
You get all the colors in there, but and.
Yeah, that's that, and this is not just my bias, but that I think is one of the reasons that I just love the trombone so much is that versatility of color and of timbre. I was listening to during my house painting this past week. I've been listening to the new Maria Schneider record called Data Lords, which is just amazing. And man, she knows how to write for trombones. She gets the color she gets, like she knows how to make it just bite and be angry and all of that, but then she knows how to write a chorale And that's so I hear you with that. Like you get that huge variety of color and timbre, the trombone ensemble. I really like it.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Maria Schneider, and I'm thinking back to Stan Kenton. Was really well known for writing really lush trombone parts.
Yeah, and that's the thing in the big band. Like if a big band writer knows how to properly write for the brass, then they can take advantage of like the symphonic qualities of those instruments, in addition to like kind of the more cutting laser beam qualities of brass instruments.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, are you a jazzer?
Oh man, I eschew labels, Larry.
Do you know how to swing, Chris?
Well, I like to think so. Yeah, I like to think so. Yeah, I mean, I can. I guess the way I look at it is that I like to call myself a freelance musician,
Mm-hmm.
and in the year 2020, you can't be a freelance musician if you can't play like a Count Basie chart as well as you can play Mahler's Third Symphony. Like you have to be able to cover all those bases. Now, growing up, in high school, I was like, we didn't have marching band in my high school, but the concert band was okay, but the jazz band was always where I was most happy.
Mm-hmm.
Then in college, I started as a jazz studies major and music ed major, so double major. And I played jazz all through high school, and I studied arranging and improvisation. But I reached a point my sophomore year where I was 2 semesters in a row, I got a C for my applied jazz lessons. And and my teacher, his name's Scott Cowan, great jazz trumpet player at Western Michigan University. And Scott's a great guy. And he said, look, you're getting a C not because you're a bad player, but because you're just not practicing what I'm assigning you.
Wow.
And I said, yeah, I agree with that. Because I had to figure out like how to play the trombone. I was not. And so I was working on that and not really practicing my bebop language. So I dropped that, and I added a performance major along with my ed major. But I never stepped away from engaging in the jazz area in college all the way through grad school. I always was doing that, and it's been like where I've lived. I've lived in a lot of places, and if the music where I lived was more commercial in nature, that's what I tended to play.
Yeah.
When I lived in Colorado, I got 0 commercial work. It was basically all tied up. It was all in Denver, and I lived in Fort Collins, and it was all tied up, and I never got any of it.
Yeah.
But here in India, that's changed a little bit.
Yeah.
So I guess I would say I don't like to think of myself as a jazz player, as a classical player. I all kidding aside, I don't really buy into those labels. For me, I'm trying to be as good a musician as I can and as great a trombone player as I can.
Yeah. Well, and I'll say, I've had the good fortune to sit in front of you in orchestra a few times, and you sound pretty darn good regardless of what we're playing. It was real easy to lock in. It's like, okay, it was a lot of fun.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, likewise.
And I miss having you back there in the Muncie Symphony. But we won't go into that whole thing. But Hartman, about his studio, and does he require his trombone players to also play euphonium? And because that, you talk about being a freelancer and having to play all the different styles, but you also have to, on occasion, right, be able to pick up the euphonium.
Yeah.
Is that something you're teaching at Ball State?
Yeah. By the time a student gets to their junior year, that means that they've passed their what's called their junior standing. It's the sophomore barrier exam. All music schools have that after 4 semesters to get into the upper level lessons. Regardless of your major, once you're a junior, you will be beginning work on a double. And so I present a range of options for doubling. If it's a tenor trombone player, then alto or bass or euphonium. If they're a bass trombone player, then tenor, alto, or euphonium. And then I include like basically I call it commercial playing. So like lead trombone playing, salsa playing, that kind of stuff, where it's not transcribing J.J. Johnson solos. Not that that's bad, but that's kind of not so much my job at Ball State. That's Freddie Mendoza's job, our jazz trombone teacher. I work on that with students if they want, but we'll work on like playing lead. So we'll get a bunch of lead charts and I'll play second and they'll play lead, or transcribing salsa music and things like that. So I present that as kind of a double as well. But yeah, I definitely think that that's valuable. It certainly has served me well. That first full-time college job I had, well, my first college job was in Rochester, New York at Nazareth College, where I taught alto brass. And so there's where I learned how to play the euphonium. I never had done it before. And then the job at Colorado State was trombone and euphonium for the first 2 years. And then I had enough trombones that I could drop the euphonium. And it was funny, man. There was one year in Colorado where I had like the trifecta on the euphonium, where like on the conducting symposium at Colorado State, we did Lincolnshire Posey, and I played. It's like for the conducting master's students, but like there's a little band. So I got to play all those great like baritone horn solos in Lincolnshire Posey, and then in Cheyenne Symphony up in Wyoming, where I used to play, they did Pictures, and I was playing second, and the tuba player, it's a great guy named Alan. He's like, Chris, I've played this so many times, and I'm just sick of it. Why don't you play Bidlow? And I was like, okay, sure. So I played Bidlow. And then a couple months later, the Colorado Mahler Festival played Mahler 7, and they hired me to play the tenor horn solo at the beginning, which was one of the most terrifying things I've ever done in my life.
But I'm sure it went well, yeah?
Well, I mean, I think it was okay, but like, I was playing on this old Besson that belonged to Colorado State because, I mean, I have many faults, Larry, but one of them is that I have not spent money on a euphonium. I refuse to do that. No offense to euphonium players, but I'm not going to do that. But so I was playing this horn that belonged to Colorado State, and it was a nice old Besson, like from England. But man, playing that thing in tune was like I'd figured out like 18 different ways to play F sharp at the beginning of that, and I think I settled on like fourth valve and like something up here. It's terrifying.
So is bass trumpet a legit double?
Oh yeah, definitely. That one's harder to do because not a lot of schools own a bass trumpet, and nor do a lot of human beings own a bass trumpet, self included.
Or if they do, there's no guarantee of the quality of it either, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a few years ago at Ball State, they did Rite of Spring, and somehow we got someone down in Cincinnati to loan us a bass trumpet for that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we don't own one. I don't have one. It's a great instrument. I really like the sound of bass trumpet. I think it's cool. Mm-hmm. But I'm I know my limitations, and I don't know like the bass trumpet repertoire or whatever. I have a buddy who does, and I would just call him.
Yeah. So who do you listen to these days, trombone wise?
Oh man. Well, I mean, I will tell you that my absolute favorite trombone player on the planet is Jürgen van Rijn. There are a few
That's the Concertgebouw guy, right?
Yeah, principal trombone, the Concertgebouw, and an international soloist. He's had a number of pieces written for him. I love the way I just love the way he plays. It's never muscular or athletic. It's always completely dedicated to musicianship, which I really appreciate. He has his latest album out is all music by Bach, and then a couple of pieces by Arvo Pärt, and it's just incredible. The album's called Fratres, named after the piece by Arvo Pärt. So I love listening to Jürgen. He's one of my favorites.
Now wait a minute. My wife played that on her senior violin recital. Mm-hmm. I mean, so I know the piece, and I'm thinking, how in the heck do you translate that or transcribe that to trombone?
Well, I mean, speaking of violin, the whole rest of that album is like Bach keyboard and violin partitas and sonatas played on trombone. The guy's he's from another planet. Yeah, so he's amazing. And then let's see, another person of mine, a trombone player of mine who's a real particular favorite is Achilles Larmakopoulos, plays in the Canadian Brass.
Oh yeah. His
playing in the Canadian Brass is, of course, without equal. But he has a little band called Quat Trombone, and it's him with a bass player. It's not a guitar. I don't know the name of the instrument. I'll mess it up. But it's like a little Venezuelan or Colombian guitar, and then somebody who plays maracas. And they do all music from Colombia and Venezuela. And his playing is just remarkable. He puts out good content online. So yeah, those two guys, man, I really, really love listening to them. And then, in addition to that, I said I don't label people, but like in kind of the more jazz side of things, some players that really just grab me, and I know this is a little bit like obvious to say, but right now, Marshall Gilks, who's just absolute monster trombone player of any kind of music, but in particular improvised music. And also Elliot Mason, who's another New York-based guy in the Lincoln Center Jazz Orchestra. And then another guy who we had up here for ITF named Ryan Keberly. Really great writer and player. Plays in Maria Schneider's band. So,
yeah, and these, it's great too, because you got all these guys on YouTube, so you can steer your students to hear some great players. And you're mentioning some names that I'm slowly starting to hear in repetition as I talk to trombone players. It's like, okay, Joe Alessi still, to me, is kind of at the top of that list. Sorry, I just completely spaced it. Well, I forgot his name. Christopher Bill.
Oh yeah.
Right. Who I think is a fantastic musician, but what he brings to the whole thing is, this energy and creativity with technology. And
he's carved out a very unique niche for himself, for sure. Yeah. There's another player too that I should mention, and I don't know why I neglected this, is Megumi Kanda. She's principal in the Milwaukee Symphony, and man, just really remarkable playing from her. And she is the kind of person who also gets music written for her. Commissions new pieces and things like that are good, that kind of enter the repertoire too. I had a student play one of them last year, so yeah, she's also really awesome.
Thinking about commissions or just new music that's coming out for trombone, is it trying to be angular, trying to be melodic? I mean, what's the trend with new trombone music?
Yeah, that's a good question. One of the great things and challenging things for us as trombone players is that a lot of new major works, concertos and what have you, are written for people like Alessi and Van Rijn, which means that sometimes they're nigh unplayable. The one that I'm super excited about is the new Chick Corea trombone concerto. Chick Corea is writing a trombone concerto for Alessi.
Very cool.
That's going to be amazing, but I think it's also going to be painfully hard. I don't know. So that's one of the challenges. However, there still is there are composers obviously who are not writing music that's just at that level. A lot of really good new music is coming out in the trombone choir world. Sometimes that music can tend to sound a little bit kind of similar to me. It gets a little bit kind of, not that this is bad, but kind of pop oriented and simple and straight ahead. And I like things that are, I like that, but sometimes it's good to have things that have a little more profundity to it.
Right.
But I'm involved in, have been and am involved in commissioning of some new music. The one big one recently was at the ITF. We gave the world premiere of a really cool major 10-minute work by Jim Beckel, former principal trombone of the Indianapolis Symphony, who's a great composer, Pulitzer-nominated composer. He wrote us an awesome piece called Clouds of the Cosmos, and that I hope will enter the repertoire. We were going to record it in April. That didn't happen. So we'll see. But there were maybe 15 other colleges on that consortium. And this summer I've commissioned a new piece by a friend of mine, Iris. I'm going to murder your last name, Iris. I'm sorry. Quellmans, I think, but she'll correct me on that. But we were in school together at University of Wisconsin, and she's besides being a great trombone player, also a fantastic composer. She's going to write a trombone choir piece that kind of comments on this current life of distancing and uncertainty and social unrest and all that. And then again, my buddy Evan and I, we are in the midst of a very intense and far-reaching commission process. We have a duo, a tenor and bass trombone duo that we call Make More Noise, and we have just we already have 4 pieces that were written for us in 2018, and we've just commissioned 5 more, and it may be 1 or 2 more than that. So we're trying to build a repertoire for the tenor and bass duo because there's like a couple. I'm sure these exist in the trumpet world too. There's like a couple that everybody plays for their recitals. You know, so in addition to some stylistic variety, you know, we have composers from all across the world, ladies, men, all different backgrounds and what have you. So we're trying to find some new and different voices to bring that in. And we are specifically asking composers to write things, well, choosing composers and then asking them to write things that are in between jazz and classical, that aren't like, you know, contemporary classical, but are not jazz, but use, you know, hopefully some vernacular musical elements.
Yeah.
Pop things, global music traditions, things like that.
Right.
So,
you know, you mentioned Evan again, and he was part of the trombone team with John Grodrian. I don't know if you know that.
Oh, I've heard of that band. I didn't know that Evan was involved in that.
Yeah. So they had commissioned 9 works, I think it was. And Scott McKee was one of the contributing composers to that. But I think the album was called Last Lap or Fast Lap.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
And, you know, I mean, it employed it was like, you guys, if anybody, do the best race car drive-by, right?
Oh, that's why you played trombone in 5th grade.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm thinking, okay, so as a composer for trombone, you have to do everything in your power to not write a glissando, right? Because, I mean, that's the obvious part, right?
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if that's good or bad, but
we don't like to be pigeonholed as just the glissando crew.
Yeah. Well, okay, so not trying to be funny, but now there's controversy, right, over Lass's trombone and whether or not it should stay in the repertoire.
Yeah. Doug Yo, the former bass trombonist in the Boston Symphony, published an article on his website. Now, Doug's a very scholarly guy. And so when he writes something, I tend to, you know, trust his sources and his rationale. And Lass's trombone is part of this collection of pieces called The Trombone Family by Henry Fillmore. And it's no secret that people like John Philip Sousa and Arthur Pryor and Fillmore himself had what we would consider today to be borderline, if not completely abhorrent views on people who weren't white. Now, having said that, that did not tend to make its way into their music, with the exception of this Trombone Family set of pieces. They were basically conceived of, and this is what Yo presents in his research, that they were conceived of and written in an explicitly racist way. Wow. And so that's the research that was presented by Doug, and I decided to go and do kind of my own digging on that, and I've reached the same conclusion that he did. So, on the one hand, it's I hate that piece anyway, and now I have an even better reason to avoid playing it. So.
Yeah. Well, it's just that trombone players, I mean, you've got enough repertoire. You can find another piece to showcase that. So
yeah, there's plenty more music that has funny glissandos in it.
Yeah. So this recital you've got coming up, you said you're going to work with is this with Stephen and Gene and
No, well, just Stephen on brass. So what we're doing is, and I'm hoping that this all comes together. I think it will. Basically, it's me and Stephen and 2 of our pianist colleagues at Ball State, Michael Saragao and Kara Chowning. I've worked with Michael on some things, and Stephen has worked with Kara on some things. And so what we're going to do is Stephen and I will both play kind of a featured major work. I'm going to play the Fantasy by Paul Creston, good kind of warhorse of the trombone repertoire. And I don't know what Stephen's going to play. And then the pianists are each going to do a solo piece of their own.
Good. Yeah.
And then Stephen and I, there's this great arrangement of the Overture to Forza del Destino, Verdi, for trumpet, trombone, and piano. We're gonna play.
Yeah,
that.
It's the one that Håkon and Christian Lindbergh
exactly.
did.
Yeah.
I have searched everywhere for that. So if you've got that, we got to talk.
Yeah, I found it. I think it was on Cherry Classics Music.
Oh,
and
man.
It may not be. It's a little bit different than what Hardenberger and Lindbergh, not Lindenberg. Anyway, what those 2 guys play on that recording in that art gallery, which is such a great video. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
The version I have is a little bit different, but it's like octaves, like where they play a note down, it goes up, or on the chart or something like that. So, but yeah, it was cheap. It was like $20.
Well, good. I'm going to have to follow up on that because Blake, I mentioned to Blake I wanted to do that
Oh
with him
yeah.
on a recital. So,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
yeah,
That would sound great. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was on Cherry Classics.
cool. Um, so, I mean, obviously, you said this is going to be the end of August. This will be an online presentation that you're going to do, streaming.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think we'll have any people in the hall at Sursa Hall in the school. Maybe I mean I might, the trumpet and trombone students, maybe have them sit and space out and check it out, but I mean if we can share music and do it in a way that's not going to make them have to close things up because people get infected with the virus, then we'll do that.
Yeah, yeah. So, all right, a little bit of a left turn here. So I've caught Western Michigan, which I think has a great tradition of brass playing, brass teaching.
Yeah, for sure.
And University of Wisconsin.
Yeah.
So that's two of the schools. What was bachelor's? Western Michigan was your bachelor's, right?
Yeah, I went to Western for. I'm from Michigan, and I went to Western for my undergrad. Studied with Steve Wolfenbarger, and immediately after that, I went to Eastman and studied with Mark Kellogg out there for my master's degree. And then I stayed in Rochester for 3 years after finishing my master's. I had two jobs. One was this adjunct teaching job at Nazareth College, and then my full-time job was I was a classical music public radio host for 3 years on WXXI 91.5.
Well, that explains the radio voice right there, man. It's like, now I get it completely.
Yeah, well, that's why I was bummed that you said you're doing Zoom, because I have a face for radio. So
yeah.
So I did that for 3 years, and then I did my doctorate at University of Wisconsin. Studied with Mark Hetzler there. And I was actually only in Madison for 2 years. At the end of my second year, when I was ABD, I got a 1-year job at Colorado State, and then finished the degree while I was in Fort Collins, and then I got the tenure track job right after that. So yeah, kind of been all around.
Yeah. So what are your goals at Ball State? To grow the studio. What do you want to see there?
Yeah, I'm definitely not trying to sound egotistical, but going into this fall, I think I've accomplished a couple of my initial major goals. The size of the studio is appropriate. It's what it should be. We have 18 students enrolled in the fall, we should be between 18 and 20. If it's bigger than that, it's a little too big to handle.
Yeah, is that just undergrads, or is that everybody?
That's 2 grad students, and the rest are undergrad. And then, so the size of the studio, I'm happy with that. That's good. And the level of playing is strong. The nature of what kind of school Ball State is that I tend to basically draw undergraduate students from Indiana, and that's fine. It's not the kind of school where you're necessarily going to want to pay out-of-state tuition. And I say that knowing. I don't mind saying that, because I know that there are a lot of really fantastic trombone teachers out there, and if a student can study with a great person in their state and pay in-state tuition, then I get it. So I draw primarily from Indiana, which is not to say we don't have students from I have a couple from Michigan right now, but the level of playing is good. There's a good level of playing of trombone in Indiana among high schoolers to begin with, so that helps.
Yeah.
That helps. The hosting of the Trombone Festival was kind of putting the cart before the horse a little bit, but those are the kinds of things that I want to do. I would really, I'm eager to build up a tradition of Trombone Day at Ball State. We were going, like I said, we were going to have a lessee this past spring, and that would have been the third of some really, really great trombone days that we've had. The first one was with Natalie Mannix from University of North Texas. The year after that was with Jim Pugh from University of Illinois, and then Alessi. So we'll continue that tradition for sure. And then the big goal for me now is I want to get the crew on the road. That's going to be hard to do with all of our restrictions this school year. But in 2018 we performed at the International Trombone Festival when it was in Iowa, and then again obviously last year. And I want to continue to do that. There's a big yearly event hosted by the U.S. Army Band called the American Trombone Workshop. That's every March. And I'd love to get the crew out there to do some playing, and that's a big part of where the focus is right now is growing the level of and the quality of the trombone ensemble and the overall playing here. But I mean, really, in it was kind of a weird situation. Usually, when you take over a college job, you have a lot of inherited students, and that can be great if they're good students, and if you're
Right.
coming from somebody who was a good teacher. It can also be a nightmare if your predecessor was not so good, or if the students are not so good, and they can push back against you. Now, I didn't really have that problem in terms of the negatives. The few students I did inherit were good folks, and they bought into what I was saying and all that. That was great. But there just weren't many, So even last year, I had no students who were inherited. So I had no seniors and one junior last year. This year I have one senior and 4 juniors, but they're all
Right.
people that I've recruited. So that has kind of helped accelerate the
Sure.
process of establishing a studio culture and a group mindset and things like that. Because maybe more than anything, I think that's most important, or that's a really important thing in music school, is building relationships with your peers and establishing your level of professionalism.
Yeah.
And that, in my opinion, that starts in the studio.
Yeah. Well, what I like too is, of course, Gene took on the Horn Festival, Horn Symposium. Was that 2 years ago? And then
Yeah.
you did the trombone. I'm wondering how long before Steven or Matt, lobbied to have their things, their big national things at Ball State. It's great facilities, and it brings great notoriety to wherever it's held, right?
Yeah,
So let's talk about Shires real quick.
sure.
Decent trombones, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
How long you been associated with them?
Let's see. I started, I became an endorsed Shires artist in 2015. So it's been 5 years. And I before that, I was playing this really gorgeous Corporation Bach 42B from the early 70s. Fantastic horn. I really loved it. I was put off by a lot of other horns because I felt like I didn't have a lot of access to much color on them. And I tried out. So anyway, for Colorado State, one year, they sent me to man the booth in the expo hall at the Midwest Clinic in Chicago. So I was there, and I just hung out at the booth and talked about the music school. And then I took a break and walked around, and I tried instruments, and I'd never played a Shires before. And I was like, well, I might as well give it a shot. So I walked over, and Steve Shires, he was still working with the company at the time. He was at their booth, and he's a friendly dude, and he's like, so what do you play right now? And I told him about this Bach that I loved. And he said, oh, you should try this. This is the Chicago, we call it the vintage Chicago, and it's kind of like that. It's like and it's like got a lightweight slide and a gold brass bell, and so it's kind of like a Bach 42G a little bit. So I was like, oh, okay, cool, and I played it, and like instantly, and I know I'm an endorsing artist for them, but like this is the gospel truth. I played that instrument, and instantly I was like, sorry, I won't use any weekend words on the podcast, but like. I said a thing, and I said, well, there goes $5,000. I have to buy this now. Because it was that horn right away was everything I loved about the old Bach. All the color, like I feel like I could lean on it, and it wouldn't break up. But it was just everything was dialed in. It just felt really good. So I liked that a lot. Then fast forward a little bit, and I hosted a brass event at Colorado State a few months later. And the music store in Fort Collins, Boomer Music, they had just become a Shires shop. And so I, through my friend Dave Smalley, who still works there at Boomer, he's a great horn player and repair guy. He put me in touch with Ben Griffin, who also used to work with Shires. And Ben came out and brought some horns out, and we had them there, and Ben brought the exact horn that I tried on the showroom floor at Midwest, and I played it again, and then I bought it. and Ben very graciously, signed me up as a performing artist for them, and then since then I've added on an alto. I have a Shires alto and a medium bore 525 bore trombone of theirs that I really love.
Yeah, very similar experience with me and the Shires trumpets.
Yeah,
You know, and Chris, you know Andy Lott up in Fort Wayne.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was playing a job with Fort Wayne Philharmonic, and he asked me, "Hey, what are you playing?" And I said, "Well, it's a Yamaha." He goes, "I'll buy that horn off you right now." So I said, "Well, okay." So we finished the weekend, and I left the Sunday matinee without a trumpet. and I get on the phone to Sam, and I'm like, "Sam, Easter's in 2 weeks. I need a trumpet right away." And those guys up there are great. Sam, Alexis, Matt, and then I can't remember the other trombone guy offhand, but they know what they're doing.
Absolutely.
And they shipped me some stuff, and I played it, and I'm like, this is it. Sam did a great job. She actually picked out my horn for me.
Yeah.
A great company, and I'm not afraid to say it's a shameless plug. I mean, look, they're sponsoring me.
Oh yeah.
Here. So that's
fine.
So
and they've been very supportive for me too. They were helping to get Joe out here, which was awesome. They've always been big supporters, along with the other companies, but big supporters of the ITF, and they've helped with other guest artists I've had. Anytime I need something, they help me out. Like that's the thing. Like, it's one thing if your instrument is good, but I think one of the reasons that they're doing so well is because the customer service is so good. They give everybody, whether it's my freshman composition major or Joe Alessi, they give them all the time of day and help people out,
Yep.
So, and that means a lot. It's they understand the benefit of what I preach to my students, which is like the music world's a very small world. Relationships matter. Yes, chops matter. In their case, the quality of their instruments matter, but none of that matters if you're just not a good person to work with. So I appreciate that they stick to that.
Well, and being acquired by Eastman, I think that's gonna stick. I mean, Eastman's got a great vibe even within that part. Yeah. So, well, man, this has been kind of cool. The point of this was to get to know you a little bit better, and I think I know you a little bit better.
Yeah. There are some things that you don't want to know. Trust me, Larry.
Oh, that's okay.
But maybe after like 7 or 9 beers, then we'll learn those things.
Sometimes people just open up and they gush. They tell me all kinds of things, and I've had to edit a few things out. Somebody gets thrown under the bus, or maybe some language.
Oh,
which I enjoy getting to beep something out every once in a while.
I can help with that.
Yeah, that's okay. Don't give me extra work. You know what? I'll do a random. I'll make it sound like you swore. Right? I'll just bleep something out randomly.
That'd be fucking great, Larry.
Oh, well, there you go. There you go. So, hey, well, let me wrap up real quick and just say I really appreciate the time today. A lot of fun. And thanks for sharing everything that you did.
Yeah, pleasure. Thanks for the invitation. The podcast is great. It's been fun listening to your interviews. And I love the format. It's awesome. Yeah.
Thanks. Getting to talk to some really great trombone players, Abby Conant, I never thought I'd get a chance to talk to somebody like that.
Yeah.
And great stories. And Joe Alessi, in fact, I was supposed to interview Joe in Muncie.
Right. Yeah. Like in person, right?
That was all supposed to be set up to happen there. But, and Scott Hartman, I mean, these really high, Gene Watts a couple of weeks ago. It's like, this is really cool. people that, in other words, it's fun, but it's like somebody asked me, who's your favorite interview? And I'm like, everybody I talk to, truly, because it's all fun.
Yeah.
It's all fun.
Well, it's awesome for you with the podcast right now. I read that article that you put up that I think UND published something about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, now's the time because people have time to do it. People are willing to talk and do this kind of thing. I mean, I always do because I'm not in demand at all. So I'll talk whenever.
Yeah. So, and I do dig the radio voice, man. I hear it now.
Yeah. I always, whenever I talk about that, I have to be careful to not like try to like really fall into it. Like, yeah, well, you know, I worked for 3 years.
So
it was all good except like with French composers because my French is horrible, and I would get these angry emails from like old ladies listening to classical music, and they're like, "Will you teach that young man how to speak French and how to pronounce things properly?"
WC, right? Or
oh yeah, WC, yeah.
WC, yeah.
Fowry.
Yeah.
Gabriel Fowry.
So, well, was it just kind of a review show? Is just highlighting new recordings, or what was that?
Oh, I mean, at the time there were only 16 full-time classical radio stations in the country, and one of them was WXXI. So 24 hours a day, classical music, and there were 3 live hosts: a morning host, a midday host, and afternoon drive time, and that was me. Mm-hmm. So I was on every day from 2 to 7, and then I had a morning program on Saturdays. That was 2 hours long, and yeah, it was a public radio station, and they had an AM news channel, and then the FM was classical. So we would play like the NPR news at the beginning of every hour, and then you'd do some weather and talk about the arts calendar and play music. I learned more about music history and various classical music forms doing that job than I did in 7 years or however many years I spent in school.
Right.
I mean, because you're just listening to it 5 hours a day. You listen to music.
Yeah.
It was awesome. 36,000 CDs in the library.
Holy cow!
It was so cool. It paid crap.
Yeah, of course it did.
And it was. I got that job in 2008, right when the Great Recession was like horrible. So like there was no health insurance and there was no retirement benefit and anything like that. So, but it was for a kid right out of grad school, it was a paycheck and it was a cool job. So
yeah, and what a great thing to have on your resume, right?
Yeah, and it serves me well. I've found ways to continue to use like some of the audio editing that I got on that job and things like that. So
yeah, very cool. Well, looking forward to the next time we get to play together, wherever that is.
Yeah, for sure, man. I hope it's soon.
ISO or studio or whatever. I'll be glad to pick up my horn and play. So
I know. Yeah.
Well, I wish you the best at Ball State this year. Hope things work well for you.
Yeah. Thanks, Larry. You too at UIndy. Hope everything goes okay down there. And
cool.
We're practically neighbors now, so eventually, sometime.
Well, I'll figure out where you live, and then I'll just start throwing stuff at your house when I drive by.
That'll work.
All right.
That's on brand, Larry. Good job. All right. Have a good one, man.
See ya. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye.